If you've ever hired anybody and put them on the front lines right away and seen that confusion that they bring into the rest of your team, if you've seen your existing team start to make mistakes, on things that they know how to do because the presence of that new untrained person, if you've seen people that, after 90 days, you're still in doubt as to whether you should keep them and you're at the end of that probation period, if you got any of that going on, watch on. Dr. Joel Parker here with the Standing Ovation practice. I spent 17 years in private practice, many of those as a practice owner, just like yourselves, and in the last 20 years consulting private practice owners, just like yourselves, in thousands, literally thousands of practices. What we're going to talk about today are some basic fundamentals that I gleaned out of not only my practice, but the thousands I've worked with. This is all part of our Diagnosis, Repair, and Tune-Up series, all part of the Basic Organization series, and today we're talking about policy. What is policy and the importance of it? All policy is, and the reason I bring this up is that some staff members have got a very adverse view on policies, a very negative view on policy is. They find it very controlling, very restricting. But when you think about it, all policy is defining how your practice runs in the myriad of possibilities of how you answer the phone and book appointments and schedule surgeries and doctors and so forth. All policy is doing is distilling it down to an agreement within your group that this is the way we do it. That's why you can't photocopy policy from one practice and into yours, because your muscle memory of how you do things has been agreed upon by your group different than another practice. So if you want to write good policy, which is very much in written form, and nowadays we've got the beautiful options of setting up a YouTube channel. It could be a private YouTube channel that you store all of your written policies on, you store all of your actions. So policy can be things, for example, like, what time the day starts, what the uniform is you should wear, how long your hair should be, should you wear long earrings or not. That's kind of all policy, what kind of shoes you'd wear. But policy also includes procedures, which is the ones that you can get into videoing. For example, how do you set up for a catheter? How do you set up for a blood pull? How do you set up for dentistry? How do you set up for surgery? How do you wrap a surgical pack? Things like that can all be beautifully shot with video to be, blazoned in time immemorial, made evergreen, right? So that it's there for people to watch forever. And you can start to then train your staff on it. And that's what you want to use your policies and your written policies and videos for, is for staff training, so that you can very quickly introduce a brand new staff member to your team, get them into the muscle memory of the team without creating problems. Like, I'm sure some of you have noticed the confusion that a new staff member brings into your practice, because they sit there, they don't know what they should be doing. They may be willing, they may be super enthusiastic, but at the first mistake they make because they weren't trained, then that can kind of cave them in and they don't become functional. So what I noticed in one of the largest practices I worked with, which was a large AHA accredited practice with about 6 or 7, 8 doctors, is that they would quarantine a brand new person for about 30 days while they trained them. So part of what they would be doing would be training closed doors. Other parts would be apprenticing them. They would quarantine them for about 30 days before that manager, who was an absolute pro, would release them into the team. And the rest of the team could be saying, hey, we need that new person, we need a new person. And she'd go, nope, she's not ready yet. But when they're finally ready, then that new person would go in because they'd been trained on the policies, on the written policies and the videos. So that new person then just folds right in, and you don't get that confusion that a new person brings. Okay, I remember one time there was a new person that answered the phone, and she'd overheard that the receptionist and doctor were talking in the back that the euthanasia freezer was really quite full, and they needed to call for a courier to have the deceased animals, shipped to the crematorium. This is common in everyday veterinary practice. You guys know about it. But what that untrained receptionist did is that they overheard her answering the phone later on that morning. She'd had no training. They just threw her on that phone. They overheard her saying, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we can't put your dog to sleep today. Our freezer's too full." She actually said that. And so I ask all of you watching this today, whose fault is that? That's a keen person that picked up the phone, but she simply wasn't trained. I think they fired her, but I question whether that was the right action. What you can do, and a lot of this is how you take responsibility for your practice. Remember that when you're pointing a finger at somebody, there's 3 fingers that are pointing right back at yourself. And I learned that lesson numerous times, right? You think that other person's screwing up. And I'm not saying that people, after they've been trained and corrected, don't screw up. They can. But you're always looking to see, can they be corrected? And if they can't be corrected, then you know it's them and not you. But always, always, always train your people on policy in videos and written form. These policies collectively go together to form a playbook. And these could be binders on the wall full of written policy that liaison with the training video on YouTube. It could be within a computer system that there's files of all these policies, front-end files, back-end procedure files. It could be, here's how you answer a phone. There's a hot link within the Microsoft Word document or the Google Doc that immediately opens up that YouTube video that illustrates how to answer the phone and what you say. All these great things that you can use now. Okay? All right, guys, so get your policies written, get them recorded on your new private YouTube channel, get the links put into your written policies, start training people, start correcting them. The minute you start correcting people, if they made mistakes, you'll kind of sort out whether they're a good teamer that goes, yeah, I screwed up, I won't do it again, or they want to argue with you in a right fight, and those are the ones you got to, out the back door. Okay? All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this today. If you like this, please press the little thumb down below for a like. Make sure you subscribe to it. Make sure you put your notifications on. Importantly, tell your friends. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.